Hey guys, Brandon back with another FM Live, and today we're going to talk about your products. So as always, you have questions, put them in the comments. We'll get to them at the end of the video or in the comment thread, as time allows, all that fun stuff. So your products, that's kind of a weird, like, why are we talking about your products if we're trying to sell you our products? Well, we've got a new program. We're calling it You Design, and basically we kind of spotted a hole, if you will, or an opportunity, I should say. So we have awesome Markforged printers that do a very, very good job, and I'll talk more about them in a little bit. And we're always seeing designs. We're talking to really smart DIY people, and we realized that there was an opportunity there, and there's an opportunity for everybody. There's an opportunity for the designers to reach a bigger market, or a market at all, but a big one, worldwide market for the stuff that they're designing. There's an opportunity for the Miata community to get access to parts that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. And it's, an opportunity for us to make a little bit as well. So the idea here is that there are lots of designers out there that just kind of backyard home people, if you will, playing around. That's basically how all of us got our start, and how we kind of turned our hobby and our passion into a career, is by playing with cars, playing with these little things back here. So to have, to basically allow people to be able to sell, to give people a little bit of a reward on their designs, and to bring them to the market as a whole, we thought was a pretty good idea. So that's exactly what this is. Basically, if you have a design that you think, this is great, maybe you got it on Thingiverse or something, but you really don't want to mess around with trying to sell it, trying to produce it in volume, trying to distribute it, any of that kind of stuff, or maybe you don't have the equipment. Maybe your equipment is okay, but not great, or whatever the reason is. That's where we come in. So we can produce your design, we can market your design, we can distribute it, we can, and again, manufacture it on our Markforged printers so that everybody can get the advantage of all those cool designs. So I'm really excited about this. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. Never kind of floated to the top. If you caught my last FM Live, these guys are actually the first product. So these are ducts for your R package, or RS, turns out, lip, brake duct inlet. So anyway, this was something a friend in Portugal designed, and we're selling it for him, and he gets a royalty off of each one that we sell. So now I do want to make it clear, we are not trying to shut down, not that we have the power to, but we're not trying to shut down the free exchange of ideas or any of that kind of stuff. If somebody wants to or designs a product, wants to offer it to the community for free, if they have a printer, if the person has a printer to produce it, awesome, no problem. We're just bringing it to people who don't have printers, who don't have a good enough printer, and again, giving the designer a little bit of a royalty on that. So we're not trying to play big, bad, whatever here. We want everybody to have fun with it. So now this program is about finished designs. When we were asking questions, we got a lot of, oh, hey, I want this magical thing. And that's awesome. And we encourage you to give you our ideas, or your ideas rather. We love ideas. We love considering them. A lot of ideas are really great for a person and not great for the market as a whole, and we have to be picky about our time. So that's why we can't necessarily design everything that everybody wants, but that's another beautiful thing about this project, is that somebody else can design it, and then we'll produce it for them. They get some money, the market gets access to that thing, even if the market is 5 people. Maybe not if it's only 5 people, but if it's 20 people or whatever, then we can still produce it. And that's the beauty of the printers, is that you don't really have, you don't have to do big volume parts. So anyway, now all of our parts, anything that we 3D print, is going to be produced on our Markforged printers. So we've got a fleet of them. obviously this is just one, and they all print in Onyx. So Onyx is just a brand name, but it's a carbon fiber infused nylon. It's extremely strong. It has very good surface finish. You can see just the details that it can print very nicely in there. You know, we've got hexes because nuts just seat in there. A little bit easier than the threaded inserts, but that's also an option. So very, very good surface finish, very, very good strength. It is, let's see, almost 1.5 times stronger and stiffer than a normal ABS, kind of, and people will argue with me on this, but we'll just call it normal, standard 3D printer material, if you will. And yes, I know there's lots of options, but one of the other really nice things about it is that it is much more resistant to heat. So it has a 35% higher heat deflection point than ABS, so it is much better suited for use in an engine bay. Obviously, it still has limitations, but it can survive there. This basically mounts by the master cylinder on an ND, for example. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to mention. It is also very resistant to all the fluids that you are going to find in an engine bay. So, you know, you get a little bit of oil on your Ninja tool, whatever, doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt the tool. So, very, very good stuff there. So what will we print? We will print things that at least have a little bit of a market. We will print things that are plausible and we can produce economically. And so it has to fit within the print volume. The print volume is about 12.5 by 5 by 6 inches of this guy. Again, we only use Onyx, so it's all this kind of semi-gloss black color, if you will. No color options. And we're still going to be picky. We're not going to print anything and everything, but we will take a good look at everything, and if we decide not to, we will tell you why and communicate. And if it's something that, well, this won't work, but that will, then maybe we can grow it into something even better. So how does it work? Logical question. So basically the way it works, we want to make sure that everybody's happy with the agreement. We want to make sure that everybody is protected, you know, legally, all that mumbo jumbo that's really annoying but does actually matter. So basically, email printme@flyinmiata.com. That'll come to me, and we can have a conversation about it. But basically, if it seems like something that's plausible, first we'll sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, which basically that gives you legal assurances that when you send us your design, we're not going to do anything with that design except evaluate it, print it for, you know, experimentation testing, whatever else. But we're not going to sell it at all until we have a royalty agreement in place. So once we nail that down, we'll get the royalty agreement. And obviously a popular question is, how much do I get? It's going to depend. If it's a pretty simple, small volume part, probably not a whole lot. If it's something a lot more, there's a lot more design time in it, it's more complex, it's much more unique, then it's going to be more. Typically, it's going to be a royalty. Sometimes there might be a payment on the front. It all depends on the market, if you will. So that is my spiel. I've got a list of questions here, so I'll go through that and then, or do you have a question for right now, Kyle?
I just have one. You barely touched on it, but I think it might need some clarification. Would you work with the designer to make minor tweaks to improve the design in order to make it better for the market?
Yeah, so the question is, would you work with the designer to make minor tweaks to make it better for the market? Absolutely. And that's actually something that we did do with this. Didn't need a lot, to be fair, but just a little bit of polishing. And that is absolutely something that we're happy to do. And to address a concern of this person, that if we take your design and we make suggestions for you to tweak it, which we would prefer, or you send us the appropriate file and we tweak it ourselves, that doesn't mean that it's no longer your file. We're not going to try to do some kind of big brother crazy, oh, well, we made a 3% change, so now it's ours and it's not yours. Good luck. We don't roll like that. So no, but to answer your question, yes, we'll absolutely work with you. We want a product that our customers are going to be happy with and that is going to sell. You do as well. The community does as well. So we will absolutely work with you to refine it or to say, well, this really doesn't make sense, but that gave me this idea. What about this? And maybe you can go off in that direction. So it's a group effort. It's definitely not a one-way street, not at all. So, and if that didn't answer your question, let us know, and I will circle back to it. So, questions that we got. Print bed size, again, 12.5 by 5 by 6. If you are in the logical unit of measurement, then that is 320 millimeters by 132 by 154. So not huge, but not tiny. Using that entire print volume gets mighty expensive. So just because it fits doesn't mean that it actually makes sense in that application. So what file extension? This guy prints STLs, so that is what we would want. If it's something that where we need to do a little bit of tweaking to it, you want us to help you modify something like that, we would very much prefer to not have to struggle through that with an STL. Possible, but it'd be much easier with a step. Whatever. We can basically use anything, even halfway normal. Okay, do we figure out slicing and bracing? Yes. Or support structures? Yes, absolutely. Please do not bother doing that on your own because it's all going to be wasted time. That's something that the software that we use for this does automatically. So again, please don't waste your time doing that. We will take care of all that. Can you make me X part? So what we are not offering is 3D printing services, if you will. If you have a part and you want us to print this one part for you, that's awesome. I'm sure somebody would love to help you out. Unfortunately, that's not what we're set up for. It would be complicated and wouldn't fit into our workflow, and there's all sorts of different reasons. I believe there are print farms out there where you just send them your design, they print it for you, and there you go. So you can absolutely have that done, not really by us, though. So here's a good one. Are you going to expand to this material, this manufacturing method, so on and so forth? That's a bit of a loaded question. We, as far as FM is concerned, do use a number of different materials, a number of different manufacturing methods. And if you have an idea for a product or you have a design, then still send it over. We are absolutely interested in looking at whatever. It would be a different kind of setup, excuse me, than this, and it would be a little bit more of a long-term thing. But yes, we're absolutely interested in whatever ideas you have. Again, it's got to be realistic, but yes, please reach out and we'll have a conversation. What percentage of sales does the designer get? So if that's what percentage of the price does the designer get, that'll vary from case to case. If it's what percentage of the sales, if we sell 100 of these, how many of those sales will the designer get a percentage of? 100%. This isn't, we're not setting it up, and maybe we could if there was, basically we could, the general setup is royalty. And that means royalty for as long as we produce it. And we can't make a commitment to produce it for forever because if nobody buys it, we're not going to keep producing it. However, if people buy it for the next 20 years, awesome. You get royalties for the next 20 years. So hopefully that answers that question. Is there an initial purchase amount given to the designer or only based on sales? Again, generally speaking, it's just going to be a royalty. If the design warrants it, if we feel like it's going to be that popular, if it's that complex and popular, and so on and so forth, there can be an initial payment on the front end. So not typically, but maybe. Does the designer keep the rights to the design? Very good question. So this is also something that's going to vary. Again, the designer, from a general standpoint, the designer is going to keep the rights to the design as far as their royalty agreement with us is concerned, and as far as making it available on the internet for free. If you're going to sell the design to somebody else, that is going to be more, if there's going to be multiple commercial outlets selling your design, we can have a conversation. To be blunt, that makes it much less appealing to us. So it is less likely that we're going to do that, but we can have a conversation. Maybe there is something outstanding about this design that warrants that kind of thing. Maybe we can work with the royalties to do that, but generally speaking, we would very much prefer to be the only commercial place that sells it. But again, we're not trying to throttle the DIY guys, put it on Thingiverse. If you've got a printer at home, if the designer is okay with that, no problem. We're fine with that. But that's the designer's call, not ours. Okay, how often do we work with freelance designers? Here and there. Not a ton, but that's not because we don't want to. That's just because it hasn't really come up. So if you are a freelance designer, you would like to work with us, awesome. It's got to be mutually beneficial. We can't produce something that's shiny and awesome, but wildly expensive and has a market of 3 people. But please reach out. We're happy to do that. We're always looking for new, exciting things. And again, the DIY community is fantastic. A ton of really, really smart people in there. So please reach out. And again, the print me at flyinmiata.com, that's a perfect address for that, for just kind of stuff in general, if it doesn't have to be for 3D printed designs solely. Okay, would it be possible to 3D print parts that see high loads like custom end plates for wings? Sure. Depends on your definition of high loads, depends on the parameters of the design. If it's going to be just a sheet of metal kind of end plate, 3D printing is a terrible application for that. If you have a really fancy kind of sculpted 3-dimensional design for an end plate kind of thing, maybe. It's probably going to be pretty expensive. This is not cheap material. It is dramatically more expensive than normal material, and these are not cheap printers either. All that has to be factored into it. But yeah, it is a very strong material. It is applicable to a lot of different applications, not applicable to everything. So if you've got an idea, if you've got a design, email us and we will figure it out. Okay, and this is pretty related. What applications is the material best suited for? So that's a really broad question. It is not suited for anything that requires it to be watertight. This is not watertight. It is very strong. It does have a very good surface finish. It does have a high heat deflection point, so it's very resistant to temperature. There are limits to all of those things, and with 3D printing, a lot of it comes into the design of the part as well as how you print it. So there's a lot of layers in that, but the short version is it's applicable to a lot of stuff, but definitely not everything. Hopefully that answers that. Kyle, do we have more questions?
Yeah, we have a few. First one, are we going to be willing to make stuff for the Fiats?
Sure. Yeah. So, apologies. Will we be willing to make stuff for the Fiats? Yeah. Yeah. The Fiats are admittedly not a huge focus of ours, but a lot of our parts still fit Fiats, and we're absolutely still willing to do that. Again, we're not making one-off parts. We're making parts for production. It doesn't have to be a big run, but it has to be more than a single. So please don't get your feelings hurt if I say I'm really sorry.
Next question is, if someone designs something and we sell it and someone knocks it off, will we do anything about patent infringement?
Okay, so the question is, will we go to bat for you for patent infringement? Step number 1 in patent infringement is having a patent. So if you have a patent and somebody violates that patent, then speak to your lawyer about it. If you do not have a patent on it, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. We have dealt with some of that with some of our parts, and it's kind of nature of the beast, I suppose. It can be frustrating, but so be it. Sometimes they're different. Sometimes they are pretty blatant ripoffs. So I suppose the answer to that question is no, unfortunately. We don't really have the capacity to do that. We will try to help you out as much as we can, but we are not a legal firm, and that is a legal matter. So,
That's it.
okay, easy enough. Well, thank you very much for stopping by. As always, we will see you guys next week. Follow us on the socials and all of that kind of stuff.
Want to give that email address one more time?
Yeah, and the email address one more time, printme, no dots, no underscores, anything, just one word, printme at flyinmiata.com. And that is flyin, not flying, so no G, just like our company name. All right, thanks guys. We will see you next time.